Now take a look at this. This is a quite an interesting breakdown of the qualified characters for Capcom Cup. It's mostly up to date and it's a very interesting list. Shouts to CatCami6 on Twitter for providing this. Obviously, if you're watching this on like live right now, here's a link. Give this person a follow on Twitter. Very much deserved. This is a very interesting breakdown that I definitely want to talk about. So let's take a look at this. I think like if we're talking about character strength, then let's just see, okay, like who are the characters that are currently qualifying for Capcom Cup? And we'll realize that the spread is partially as expected, but partially it's like it tells a really interesting story. This is why I love this breakdown so much, because it doesn't just include the wins, the tournament wins, it actually includes the top 8 finishes and even the top 4 finishes as a separate metric. So we can see, okay, who actually had a potential to get into Capcom Cup and it didn't happen to make it. Spoiler alert, Cammy is very high on this list. Like if you take a look at Cammy, she's technically out of like the chances to make it. She's top 5 on this list, but we almost have 0 Cammys in Capcom Cup right now. So what do these graphs even mean? So if you see like the purple graph or the purple bar means that's a top 8 finish, the orange one is the top 4 finish, and the blue bar is, well, number 1 spot, because you have to win in order to qualify for Capcom Cup. So this is quite interesting as a result. Obviously, if you take a look at Ken and Luke and JP, you're not really surprised. This is exactly what we were expecting. Honestly, taking a look at this list right here, I feel a lot better about my early tier list, because I've always said DJ has great potential, and he's potentially the best character in the game. This is what I used to say very early on, and he happens to be number 4 on this list, which is quite interesting. JP, funnily enough, even though he's top 3 on the list, in terms of qualified players as JP, it's pretty low actually. Most players who qualified at this point are Luke's and Ken's, and that really checks out with my experience as well. Like you see so many Luke's and Ken players like everywhere, right? So hopefully Capcom is going to do something about that next patch. JP is a much more interesting character in this regard because he didn't technically qualify, even though he had a lot of chances. So this is a great way to objectively look at who are the strong characters. As I said, Cammy is a character that we have had interesting discussions about, because like there are so many people who said Cammy has low damage output. There's so many complaints about this character that she's supposedly too weak to get into Capcom Cup, and yet if you take a look at the chances, she's top 5. So Cammy is absolutely doing okay. Juri and Chun-Li. Actually, Chun-Li is quite interesting. I think Juri, a lot of people had her high on the list, and she's somewhat high, but she's not absurd, right? But Chun-Li, I feel like I think on the high level we see her enough, but on the low level currently not so much. And I think this is why people underestimate this character. Then we have, like, let's say the mid tiers. I think after Chun-Li you can... Let me see though. So Chun-Li is the number 8 character. So these are like the top 8, and like this is as objective that you can get when it comes to the tier lists, right? Then we have Blanka, Marisa, Dalsim, Rashid. Rashid is very interesting because he's a pretty fresh character, but he's already played quite a lot. This is actually unusual. Like, if we take a look at Aki, I mean, Aki is number, like, 2nd to last place here, only getting beaten out by Jamie, if we can call it that. The fresh characters are usually, traditionally, underrepresented in the first year, but Rashid is already being played. He might actually be on the rise. There's still more to come from Rashid, I think. Guile, in my opinion, Guile is potentially the only one that looks kind of wrong on this list. He looks a little bit too low on this list, but maybe that's just me. According to these stats, when he makes top 8, he's getting qualified for Capcom Cup more frequently than others, which is an interesting statistic. So yeah, interesting list, you know, like definitely let me know what do you think. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, it's gonna go to YouTube for sure. Definitely let me know what you think. If you want to support CatCami6, obviously on YouTube, I'm gonna have a link in the description. you can go follow CatCami6, because this is a fantastic breakdown, and I think we really should be taking a look at this more frequently in the future. I think this is a great way to represent character strength with real data, without any of the nonsense that you have when it comes to like figuring out, okay, who's really strong. There are characters that are usually not played very much, like Dalsum, for example, but when they are played, they're usually somewhat effective. So I'm happy to see Dalsum like beyond like 50%, or pretty much exactly in the middle, I guess, and not on the low end where you would see him if you just put all of the data. Is just gonna Ken, Luke, and JP are just gonna annihilate the data if you just take a look at the ranked stats instead of Capcom Cup qualifications. This is pretty good. I like this. What do you guys think?